Good morning, Sycamore Creek family, and welcome to our last week in our series of Finding Your People. Let me tell you a story about a time when a friendship of mine was almost lost and broken. It was back when I was pregnant with our first daughter, Naima. I so needed my friends to be with me as I was preparing for my second baby shower, the one that my mother-in-law wanted to throw for me. And I put that in air quotes because that shower was never about me. It was to show me off to her friends and her neighbors in a city I wasn't from, in a city I didn't live in. So I reached out to a friend that lived there and asked her to assist me on the day of because I was getting tired, frustrated, and I was a little further along in my pregnancy. This friend was kind, creative, and someone I could talk to and laugh with. See, I could do none of those things with the women on that side of the family without exposing myself to teasing or hurtful criticism. The goal of the day was to survive. What better way to survive an event than with a friend or someone I would consider to be part of my chosen family? But something happened, and I had to fight to get this friendship and relationship back on its tracks. Do you want to know what happened next? If your answer is yes, well, stick with me as we continue in this series. My name is Tiffany Norde, and I'm the worship producer here at the South Lansing campus. And today, we're focusing on fighting for your village. Who here knows that finding your people is only half of the battle, and keeping those people, like your friends and family members, might even be harder? Today, we are wrapping up this series, Find Your People. Is based on the book by Jenny Allen. This series has been full of practical advice on the following steps you can take to initiate and deepen connections with your social network. The ideal scenarios for you to have the following: 5 close friends, 15 people in your village, 50 acquaintances, and 150 people in the network of people that you might see 1 to 2 times a year. And building those connections and building each of those levels takes work. I call it building your social capital. Jenny Allen said it best. Outside of Jesus, relationships are the greatest gift we have on earth, and simultaneously the most difficult part of being alive. Now stop and think about that for just one moment. There's so much truth in that, isn't it? I can instantly think of relationships that I absolutely love and adore and appreciate. But at the very same moment, I can think of relationships that have caused and still cause me great pain and sadness. In that same thought, I can think of almost every job that I've ever had. For example, it's been because of a relationship that was already built with someone, which granted me access to opportunities. Relationships are key. How many other people can relate with me on any of those points? I know I can, and I hope you can. What we as humans have to remember and keep in the forefront of our minds is the desire that our God has for us, but also what the enemy hates for us, and that is community, togetherness, family, unity, friendship. Can you say it with me? God desires community for us, but the enemy hates community for us. So let's stick around for one more message. Let's talk today about how to keep those relationships strong through life's ups and downs and stagnant stretches in life. I hope that by now in this series, you've got some ideas and you've already begun to take some of those steps to building your community, or if your community is already established in your life, how to continue to strengthen it, feed it, and support it through life's changes. But if you still don't know, the answer might be closer than you realize. Family is the first place that we experience community. For most of us, it's the first place that we experience long-term relationships, but what we think of as family is the husband, wife, 2.5 kids. So I just found out what the 0.5 represents. And I was like, what does that look like? It's the dog, the cat, the pet. But I digress. Nonetheless, the more historical perspective of family includes multiple generations extended family living together, oftentimes in one home. In this great country called America, we can see both in various cultural groups. This historical perspective of family is still being lived out, but then there's the shift that took root in much of our mainstream American society, where the value for individualism can be seen and defined by the nuclear family as an individual social unit. According to Allen, this doesn't affect all American groups the same way. She shared an interaction with a Black friend of hers who described how in most Black communities, family members take care of one another and neighbors become family. African Americans live intergenerationally and will do whatever it takes to take care of each other. I can firstly speak to this. For many of us, our babysitters were our grandparents or neighbors, and we oftentimes will take our parents and grandparents into our homes to take care of them in more of their seasoned years in life before we ever think about the nursing home or, God forbid, hospice. Or here's another example that I get to witness in my own neighborhood. There's a Latino household that is our neighbors across the street from our home, and there are multiple generations that live in that house. They're coming in and going out, and it's beautiful to me. They play their music when it's a nice day outside. They grill on the front lawn. I see kids up to elders on the front porch. Oh, how I wish I had a big enough house to bring in my whole entire family, my brother, my mom, my sister, my dad, and so forth, all under one roof, to bring in all of those resources and skills together to support one another and love on one another. Who wouldn't want an in-home babysitter? I know I would. Once again, these are the people who have aided in forming us, walking with us, being there for us, and vice versa. Whatever your family looks like, whether it's your given family or your chosen family, meaning the group of people that you've selected in your life to be your support system, these will be and are your deepest and most important relationships, where actual healing, growth, joy can abide in those relationships. Thus, they're so worth it. Remember what we've said throughout the last couple of weeks in the series. It's not good for the human to be alone. We want you to know, and Jenny Allen, the author of this book, wants you to know, and even more important, God wants you to know, that these relationships are worth fighting for. And you will probably have to fight at some point. Close relationships will always run into some type of hard patch. And the relationships you have with your family, your friends, or your partner are no exception. For example, damage to any attachment to any close relationship, like a parent, grandparent, caretaker, friend, relative, teacher, coach, partner, or sibling, can cause long-term pain, especially if it happens in your childhood. Many of us carry that pain like luggage from those first relationships right into our adulthood, because we all have humans in our lives that were key to our development. Now, I want to offer a disclaimer. Toxic, manipulative, or abusive relationships, whether it's from your family of origin or the people that you have chosen to be in close relationship with, absolutely requires boundaries and possibly even cutting off contact. I've been reading a book in my personal time, and this series has helped me to pick this book back up and start reading it again. It's called Set Boundaries, Find Peace, A Guide to Reclaiming Yourself by Nidra Glover Tawwab. Cool fact, I went to college with her husband. Go Broncos. But to tell you a little bit about this book, it's very practical and easy book to read. And that's one thing that I really like. I like when counselors and therapists use their science and able to simplify it to points where you can actually implement them in life. Just to give you a sneak peek to the book, I'm just reading the titles of the chapters so you can see and hopefully pick this book up along with, you can pick up the book that this series is on too. But boundaries are so important, and that the first chapter talks about understanding the importance of boundaries. What the heck are boundaries? The cost of not having healthy boundaries. Why don't we have them? 6 types of boundaries. So just right there, I'm not even reading all the chapters, but it's things that we don't know that we need in our lives. Thus, please seek help if you are in that position now, or if you ever experienced difficult relationships growing up. If you've never healed from it, please consider counseling or whatever that may look like in your life. No one should ever have to go through that alone. So, to move along in this message, there can be many reasons why your family of origin doesn't make up your closest community, or sometimes, should I dare say it, your church community might not make up your closest community either. Don't worry, I got permission to say that because here at Sycamore Creek Church, we hit different, meaning that we can be transparent about how we feel and lean into those difficult moments and lean into our community here when you feel like you might be holding on to church by a thread. Maybe you have had to cut ties with people or community, or maybe you just had to adjust the intimacy of your relationship with certain people. Maybe they don't live close to you, or maybe they've passed away. In that case, I want you to be encouraged and think about family in a new way. I want to encourage you to develop what Jenny Allen calls fictive kinship, or Pastor McKell and I are most familiar with this term, family, which is the meshing of 2 words, family and friends. But this kinship she speaks of is a sense of belonging to each other. Psalm says this about God, that he is the father to the fatherless, the defender of widows. This is God, whose dwelling is holy. God places the lonely in families. When the Christian community is healthy, there can be such a rich and vibrant connection here. It can be like a family. It can be belonging. These are the people who show up with meals after you've had a hard time, surgery, or a baby. They're the people who open their homes when you lose power from an awful storm, such as the storm that we just recently had here in Lansing, Michigan, where many of us lost power, and we lost power for 4 days. And my sorority sister and my husband's fraternity brother opened up their home for us and our family to stay a night or 2. And then one of our closest friends also opened their home to allow us to come in and be there for a couple of days. Community is also the people who cheer your kids on on the first day of school. Our sorority and fraternity actually were stationed at the school that our children go to, and they were right there to welcome our kids and so many other kids to school, and you can see the smiles on their faces. These people are family. That brings us to our first chat question. Describe one of your closest relationships. What do you value about that person?